Well, thank you for the kind invitation. It's a delight to be here for such an important cause. It's also very personal for me. Not only is the wonderful Ambassador Ryan Crocker here, who has had exemplary service to our country. I'm also joined by Chris Jennings, who's on my staff. Chris and I actually worked in Baghdad together at the embassy back in 2007, 2008, and then he was doing wonderful work at USAID. By far the best part of Doge was getting Chris in my office because he's very fantastic. But this is all personal to me just because Afghanistan is personal to me. Iraq is personal to me. But I was in Afghanistan in Lashkar Helmand. I had spent this Christmas of 2007 in Baghdad, and I arrived in Kabul on Christmas of 2008, and then thought I was going to Urzagan, and then the embassy had a different plan, and I remember touching down, and I saw this very cute but grumpy-looking English girl sort of ignoring me, and I thought, thank goodness I don't have to serve with her, and she was down in Helmand, and then lo and behold, I got sent to Lashkar Helmand, and so it's where I met my wonderful wife Eleanor, and I would say, if Baumgartner can find love in Helmand province, Afghanistan, things are possible, so we hope alive. But we were in Lashkar. We didn't live on the base. We were on the convention reconstruction team. We were in downtown. Any of you that know Helmand know that it's a tough place. It was certainly a tough place in 2009. And there are very few foreigners there. And actually been on the camp now, living with our Afghan teammates. And so even though I had some wonderful close relationships in Iraq, in Afghanistan, being day in, day out with our Afghans, and two stick out to me, a lot stick out to me because we would work together, and then back in those days I was in pretty good shape, and I used to like to work out with them, and we would do some weightlifting or some boxing and those sorts of things. But one of the teammates that I'll share a story about was at the time a young mother named Aruna, and she was our first female Afghan teammate. And I remember when she started, her husband had to come and talk to our Afghan team leader to get permission, and then talked about the challenges she faced from the Taliban just being in that position, working with Americans. And we had to make some accommodations in the office in terms of where our desks were and these sorts of things. But she was very brave because I knew that she was significantly facing threats from that. And I'm very pleased to report that has since made it to America, and one of those ones that made it out despite facing those threats. We have another, and we've helped several. My wife has been very active in helping Afghans come to the U.S. Thank you again. Yeah. At some point, I don't know if we ever sent you the story about Eleanor helping Afghans, but yeah, I should send it to you and see. It's quite an interesting story. But in any event, there's another person who has not made it out, and that was our chef at the time. And he was Hazara in Lashkar Helmand, which is can be difficult because of religious and ethnic differences there. And he has faced continued threats and challenges both in Afghanistan and going to Pakistan and going back. And he's still one that we are working on, because our program in Iraq, I was official State Department. In Afghanistan, I was contracted. And so some of the challenges we have with our teammates is that they weren't working directly for U.S. government. They were working for contractors. And some of those contractors no longer exist as independent businesses, and we're just trying to work on that. But in any event, Representative Crow made the salient points about the importance for this for the morals and ethics of this, and then also for the national security ethics. My request to you, for those of us that care about this cause, is to really help the Afghans that come here integrate well in American society, and to promote. There's these stories, of course, out there of Afghans who have not done a great job integrating into our culture, and we need to promote and celebrate those that do. In Washington State, where I am from, our governor in the 1970s and 80s made Washington State a real beacon of hope for Vietnamese boat people that were being persecuted by the Communist Party in Vietnam after America left. And I was in a small little farm town in eastern Washington, and it was a town named almost all ethnically German Americans and all German Catholic Americans that were there. But there was several families from the town sponsor the Vietnamese boat family, and they grew up down the street. And my little brother grew up a lot with them, and they had been eating fish head soup and doing all the things you do when you're Vietnamese. But they were really model Americans. Worked very hard, got jobs, integrated well. So really, part of the American dream story. And we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure that our Afghan, Iraqi, Syrian, they come here. We need to make sure that they become model Americans, embrace our way of life, our pluralism, and celebrate that, so we can celebrate them as well too. So we got about these issues, and and making sure that when folks come in here, because as a Republican, on my side of the aisle, there's some, America cannot take everyone. We have to have rules, has to be order in terms of who comes here, but there is a lot of discussion about making sure that when people come to America, that they want to embrace our culture and embrace what makes us so great. So it's up to us to make sure that happens as well too. So thank you so much for supporting this wonderful cause. And how many Afghans do we have here in the crowd? I see a few. I can tell with your beautiful eyes and your big smiles and everything. That's great. Well, you are all welcome to come by. My office is not very far from here, Cannon 124. If you ever would like to come by for a visit, you're most welcome always in our office. So thank you very much. Thanks.